Well, good morning, everyone. You've had a good morning so far? How many have had a good morning so far? Good. Excellent. Well, I hope we can continue to do that. That's the plan. One of the difficulties I always find with coming to a conference like this is how many workshop notes do you run off? And no matter what I do, I'm always wrong. You know, if a tree falls in the forest type thing and no one hears it, well, so what we'll do is we'll hand these out. If there are more than one of you from one church, if you'd only take one right now, Danielle is going to go and run some more off and bring them back. So we'll hand these out, and then we'll get a show of hands how many we need. So, so if there's more than one from one church, there are 30 copies, so we'll be close, but not close enough. And there is already a correction in it. We'll see whether you can pick it up or not. We just watch our time. Just by way of introducing, my name is Phil Whitehead. For 27 years, I was the executive director of one of clubs in Canada. That finished in 2010. And then, along with my board of directors, we started to work at rebuilding a children's ministry. But as we worked at that, realizing the finances were going to be pretty significant, and then an opportunity opened up with an organization called BCM International Canada, which used to be called Bible Club Movement. Some of you might remember that name. Now it's Bible-Centered Ministries, and we have a number of ministries that we have sort of under our umbrella that are geared toward either those that work with children, such as you, or for children themselves. And I've been there since November, so I'm still learning very much. But what I want to do today is look at something that I am rather passionate about, and that is leadership training, particularly for those that are 10 to 13 years of age. And that's what we want to focus on. We're going to do it in two ways. How many did not get a handout? Can you put your hands up nice and high so Danielle can count? Nice and high. Your shoulder won't come apart if you don't put it up too high. What do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a dozen or 15. Danielle, that would be great. She'll be right back with those. Today we're going to do the workshop in two parts. It's entitled A Learning Lab. Now, what do you do? Think back to your school days or in your school days. What do you do in a lab? Hands-on. Okay, so we're going to do two things. We're going to look at some theory and what is behind Kid Lead, what we call Kid Lead. The theory behind it, why it was developed, a little bit about how it's developed, and then we're going to do some hands-on so that you will know exactly what the young leaders will be doing in this training. Now, it's a little difficult because we split up into small teams, and we'll get a little larger teams than we normally would have, but hopefully we can work together and you can get a taste of exactly what the young leaders will do, what the program is all about, and how the young leaders learn about leadership. I want to ask you a question first of all. As someone that works with children, I'm making the assumption you either work with children or youth. Am I right? All right. What keeps you up at night? Concerning ministry to children and youth. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to turn to someone beside you, someone you don't know. All right? Don't talk to someone in your own church. Just turn to someone you don't know, and the person with the biggest face on their watch is the one that asks the question first. What keeps you up at night? All right? And then when they have told you their answer, then they will ask you the question and you will give them the answer. You've got 2 minutes to do that. Go. We'll probably lead some more. All right, the other person should be giving their answer now. Okay. All right. Now, let me ask you, what keeps you up at night concerning ministry to children and youth? Anybody volunteer? What keeps you awake?
The fact that they blindly obey often, but they don't know exactly why they're doing it.
Okay, they blindly obey and they don't exactly know what they're doing. Good.
I said that making sure the kids are doing the decisions they choose, hopefully going down the right path.
Okay.
If they don't go down the right path, to change and get the consequences and redirect them back onto the right path.
Good. Making right choices, and you're afraid they're not making right choices. Good. Someone else.
That they experience God in a way for themselves, that they grow into their own faith and they don't walk away.
Okay, their own faith. Good. Has anybody read the survey, seen the survey called Hemorrhaging Faith that's just been done recently? And that deals with that question, is where are our young people going? If you get a chance to read that survey, I highly recommend it. It talks about where our youth are going when they're not going to church, what they're doing. Somebody else. What keeps you up at night? Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, is the things that trouble the kids so deeply that they can't speak out.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes we miss, and sometimes we don't know.
We miss it. Good. One more. Somebody else. Maybe you're not getting... Yes.
I have a lot of high-energy kids, so kids with, for lack of a better word, with disabilities. The terms are out there, but they're high energy, and so some of them are confused, some of them can't sit still, and some kids are very calm.
Okay. How do you reach them all? How do you work with them all so they all get the message? They all understand. Well, what prompted this question was really just something personal, in that, first of all, what I'm afraid of is children that have no idea of who God is and that He loves them. They just don't know, because their parents don't know and their grandparents don't know. Youth have no purpose in life and see no relevance in the Bible or the church. Do you know, among young people today, what the second cause of death is among young people? Suicide. Suicide is the second cause of death for young people today. The continuing need for volunteer leadership in our church ministries. How many in your church you have enough leaders to do all that needs to be done? Everybody? What? Nobody? Nobody's put their hand... We got one hand? We need leaders, don't we? We need people that are willing to serve and work with children. And as someone who has spent his life, and you've spent your life probably in working with children and youth, that can keep you awake at night. Lack of intentional leadership training in our colleges and seminaries. I am just finishing a degree at seminary level, and as I've gone through all the courses over the years, I've had to do it part-time. What has bothered me most is that the seminary I'm going to does not do intentional leadership training. The idea is that everybody's a leader. And we'll see as we get going, everybody is not a leader. Just like everybody does not play the piano well or does not play hockey well. And that bothers me. The lack of ethical leadership in our society. I don't know what... I hear a little bit about BC. I'm from Ontario. And I hear a little bit about BC, but I know in Ontario, we got a pile of problems in Toronto, in our legislature. And never mind about Ottawa, we won't even go there. And no one is doing anything about it. And that's the biggest problem. Nobody seems to care that we don't have ethical leadership. We're not training young people who are gifted as leaders. And I would hope if there's one thing that I could share with you today and to try and motivate you to do today is to consider intentional leadership training for those in your children's ministry or those in your youth ministry that are gifted as leaders. That are gifted as leaders. The church today desperately needs leaders. not just in the pulpit, but in every facet of the church and every facet of society. History is shaped by three things: disasters, and we see them all over the place, discoveries, and they're being made all the time, and then finally leaders. What is the greatest, or what is the thing that is the greatest among those three, that it shapes our society and shapes our world? Leaders. Because leaders are part of everything. I just, in coming over today, I was listening to CBC Radio. There's an inquiry going on in Northern Ontario right now in a place called Elliott Lake. Back a year and a half ago, a shopping mall collapsed. 2 were killed and a number injured. And so the inquiry is going on now as to why that happened. And yes, it was a disaster, but why was it a disaster? And that's why they're beginning to find that things weren't done just right in building that shopping mall originally. Leadership. There are all kinds of leaders. Our world is shaped by a variety of those that we consider to be leaders. Some extremely evil, and we can look back in history and we can see what they have done to not only the world but their own people. We have those that have shaped the world through their work, through their life. Celebrities, they have a great influence on us. And one of the things that was suggested that keep us awake at night is the fact that children are not making the right choices. Well, that's where we're going. That's where they're getting their choices from. Our leadership, our political leadership, sports and business. And then there are those that just don't do right as far as our leadership is concerned, particularly in politics. And then the commentary on leadership is pretty bad. And so that's why we need to raise up today a generation. Take a little while to take it in, doesn't it, eh? Yeah. But that's what happens in bad leadership. The leader usually comes out smelling like a rose, but the followers are the ones that get hurt. And we need a generation of ethical influencers in the church, in our society, and in our world. And that's where we need to be going. So, while others are content to react to the problems that are the result of unethical or ineffective leadership, at KidLead, at BCM, we believe there is another way. And that is we want to start early and be proactive. We're not going to wait for people. That's why I so much appreciate the opportunity that the Elevate has given me to be here today. Is because I believe we have to start early. And you people are the ones that are going to do it. You're the ones that will accomplish it. If you want to change the world, you focus on leaders. But the addition to that is, if you want to change leaders, focus on them when they are young. Focus on them when they are young. Now, how would you define leadership? How would you define leadership? I've jumped ahead a bit. I'm going to go back. But how would you define leadership? Somebody just give me some ideas. The ability to influence. Okay, good. What else? How else would you define leadership? Pardon? Steering? Good communicator?
They're not afraid to take steps forward.
Okay, not afraid to take steps forward. A good example. Good. Anything else?
The ability to go first.
The ability to go first. Okay, good. They know who they are. They know what they believe. Well, we have sort of our own definition. Leadership is the process of helping people accomplish together what they could not as individuals. And together is a key word here, because we believe in teams, in functioning as a team. So, leadership is a process of helping people accomplish together what they could not as individuals. That then leads to leaders are those who get leadership going. And that's what we need. We need leaders who will get leadership going, will begin to get things being moved in the right direction. Now, let's look at some examples. So go back up the page. And I don't know whether some of you have already found a mistake there, but you will once we get going here. As we look at it, tell me, who is the example here? Who is the example here? Samuel, right. And how old was Samuel when he went into the temple and worked with Eli? He was just a boy. Just a boy. That's all he was. That's what the Bible says. He was just a boy. And yet, he was given the responsibility to function in the temple with Eli. And of course, you know the story. Even while he was a boy, God spoke to him and said, Samuel, I have a job for you to do. All right, what about this? 2 Samuel 16, 11 to 13. Who would that be talking about? David. Now, we don't know how old he was, but he was the youngest in his family. Now, considering that there were a number in the family, and his oldest brothers were in the army, he was probably pretty young, and he also had the task of being with the sheep. And that was usually the very youngest responsibility, as well as the servants. So David was probably pretty young about this time. I would say less than 15. Guessing, but we're not really told. All right, what about 1 Kings 22, verse 1? It is not there, I don't think. No, this is one I missed when I did the notes and realized afterwards I had them all run off. You know who this would be? Pardon? Josiah. Now, how old was he when he became king? 8 years old. King over Israel. All of the nation. He was king. All right, how about 2 Kings 5, 2 and 3? Now, the person isn't named. We don't know who, we don't have a name. But we know what they did. And it took some leadership ability to be willing to do it. What somebody suggested here, one of the marks of a leader, is willing to move out, willing to move forward. This is what this person did. A little girl. Who was it? What's the story? Pardon? Naaman, right. And the servant girl was a Hebrew, and she went to her mistress and said, if only my master would go back to my country. She was a slave girl. Go back to my country, and he would be cured of his leprosy. So here was a slave girl willing to go to her mistress, to the commander of the foreign forces. Daniel 1, 3, 4. Daniel. We don't know how old he was, but it tells us that as Jerusalem had been conquered and Nebuchadnezzar's forces were rounding up all the people to take him back, it says that he was young, and so were his three friends. They were young. So, 15, 16. And we know right away they were identified as being gifted, and they were put right into the training program for those that would take part in Nebuchadnezzar's reign. So he was a youth. Luke 2, there's the mistake. By the way, I put Matthew down. It should have been Luke. Just shows you nobody's perfect. Unless you are. Maybe you are. I don't know. Who's this? Luke chapter 2? Who?
Mary.
Not Mary. Jesus, 12 years old. He's in the temple. And he's having a debate with the religious leaders of his day. And when his mom and dad come along and said, son, how come? How did he answer it? Didn't you know that I got to be about my Father's business? Now granted, we take into account that who Jesus was, but still, as a young boy, he understood what his mission was about and was willing to step out and do it. Well, we have a perception of leadership in our world today, and that is we look, just go to the music stand, the magazine stands and so on, and we can see what we think our society thinks of leadership. But did you know that in Canada, as of July 1st, 2010, there were over 4 million preteens and teens in Canada from 10 to 19 years of age. Over 4 million. There's about 550,000 boys and girls under the age of 14. So you can see where the skew is. Because of the way our society has had an impact on our kids and how it is moving them down life, we have to take a non-traditional approach if we're going to develop ethical influencers. And so that's what Kid Lead is all about. On your second page there are two graphs. The top one we call moral development and cognitions. You notice the blue line, the solid line, has to do with our moral development as a person. And as our moral development, psychologists tell us, increases and continues to grow till we hit about the age of 10, 10 and a half, and then it is pretty well set, and then it starts to go down. By the time we reach 10 and 11 years of age, our moral development is pretty well established, and to change it is significant. That's why when you've got young people in your youth group, it's very hard to get them to maybe think differently, to make different choices, to help them understand what the biblical principles are and to follow it. Because by the time they get to 14, 15, 16, their moral development is in place. Their anchors are in place. And it's an awful lot to get them to change that. Now, in Romans 8, we have a listing there of the spiritual gifts. And among those spiritual gifts is one that says, he who leads with diligence. That means that leadership is a gift. All right? It's a gift. It's listed in with the other spiritual gifts that we have. And so leadership, well, we could all, in a sense, do leadership. There are those, just as there are with anything else, there are those that God determines to gift people with the leadership ability. And we need to recognize that not everybody is a leader. And just as I mentioned earlier, not everybody is gifted to play sports, a particular sports, or to play a particular musical instrument. We are not saying to children that you're not good enough. We're saying that you have a gifting in this area, and this child has a gifting in this area. We do it continually, and leadership fits within that. And so the next graph then talks about just where that fits in the general population. Within the general population, we have about 10 to 20% that are gifted as leaders. They're habitual leaders. If there's an opportunity to lead, they will step forward. And they don't have any hesitation to do it. And they are high on the leadership scale. We have about 60% of a given population, whatever that number would be, that are situational leaders. They would rather not be leaders, and I would suspect that most of you here today, because of what you are doing, could quite probably fall within this category, that given a certain situation, you will lead. You're not really comfortable with it. You don't like to be out in front, but you will lead because the situation requires. But when the situation is over, you'd like to step back into the background and let someone who is high leadership, a habitual leader, to step forward. But you will do that. Then we have another 20 to 30% that are low on the leadership scale, and they are followers. They don't want to be up front. They don't want to be leaders. They are very comfortable being followers. They would just as soon do that. And that's not negative. That's the way they are gifted. And they have other abilities. What we want to do is we want to give children and youth a 10 to 20 year head start on their leadership training. Typically, if we look at leadership training in the world today, it starts at around the age of 25 to 30. Once someone gets out into out of their post-secondary education and they get in the business world and someone identifies them as being a leader, they start getting some training. They could go on to an MBA program, whatever it might be, and it's 25 to 30 to 35 before they really get into it. What we would like to do, and what we're suggesting in Kid Lead, is to say, let's lower that. Let's give our kids a 20 to 30 year a 10 to 20 year head start on their leadership training. So what we want to do quickly on this workshop is we want to provide a brief overview of the Kid Lead rationale, the philosophy, and the vision of Kid Lead. I'm just going to quickly touch on the curriculum, what the training is all about, training certification, and how a Kid Lead club operates, and that's what you're going to do. That's why I'm trying to go as quickly as I can, but not too fast, because I want you to experience a little bit of that today. And then we're going to finish with a bit of question and answer, if you've got any. I want to give you that opportunity. In Kid Lead, we have what we call our Lead Young training systems. That's what we title our training system. And we look at it, there are really 4 natural seasons of development for leadership. There's what we call the spring, which is 2 to 9 years of age. We're calling the summer 10 to 13, the fall 14 to 18, and winter 19 to 25. The titles are arbitrary, but the age groups aren't. They are distinctive, and they work on the development and the ability of a child to think, moving from being very concrete thinkers to be able to think very abstractly. And that grading that goes in between those age groups. In this ages 10 to 9, we look at conditioning and character. And it's for schools and parents. There's no training required, no certification required, and it will be released later on this year. Then we have the summer, the ages 10 to 13, and this is what we call Lead Now. What we call Lead Now, and this is the first program that was released in 2008, and it looks at the character and competencies. If you look to the 3rd page of your handout, you will see that our curriculum is divided up into character and competency. A leader needs both character and needs to be competent in what they are doing. And so you'll see that our character is divided up into values and attitudes, competencies, relationships, and decision-making. We'll take a look at that again in a minute. Then we have our fall, what we call ages 14 to 18, where we say we're going to move from competency and to confidence. Notice there's a progression in how this is working here. It's for schools and organizations, and like the summer, there is certification required, and we have a manual that we go through to be a certified trainer for Kid Lead. And it was released this was released in 2012, I think it was about May of last year. Then we're looking at winter, ages 19 to 25, which talks about confidence and connections, schools and organizations, and there is no certification required. So at either end, we're not talking about certification, we are in the middle, and it'll be released as well later on this year. So, if you look at that wheel, these are 16 character and competencies, which through the research has said these are really the most desirable for a leader. These are the things the character traits that we really want to see as a leader, and these are the competencies we want as a leader. Now, if you do other research, you'll find that you could go over up to 100 of these. But after sifting and comparing them and so on, we've boiled that down to 16. And then what we've done is we've taken those 16 and we've put them in 4 modules. And the 4 modules, then there's 2 lessons on each module, so we're going to spend 2 lessons on ethics, and if you look back, ethics is a value. And so we're going to spend 2 lessons on values in each module, 2 lessons on attitudes, so honor, and then communication, and then power. And so by the time a child works through all 4 modules, they will actually have covered these competencies and character traits 32 times, because we're going to double up on them to really emphasize them. We have a trainer training intensive, which includes an overview of the Kid Lead program. We talk about the Kid Lead curriculum, what it's based on, the theory behind it, why we have chosen these competencies and characteristics. We talk about the business of a Kid Lead club. There's a way of doing it and doing it right. There's coaches, and we're going to see what those coaches do, the role they have this morning as well. And we have a manual for coaches training. And then we do a mini camp at the end of our certification training, so that if you're being a trainer, you get a little a taste of what a club is, and that's again what we're going to do in just a few minutes. And then we talk about young leader selection. And we have coach training, understanding young leaders. We learn and understanding the skills needed to work with young leaders. We don't call them kids, we don't call them children, we call them young leaders, because that's who they are. We understand their role as a coach, a leader developer, not a teacher, and that is one of the hardest lessons to learn, is we're a developer, not a teacher. And we're going to try and have to understand it. Have a solid understanding of the Kid Lead curriculum, because they are vital. The coaches are vital to the ministry and to carrying out Kid Lead. The young leader training is on an active basis. It's accelerated, it's experiential, and it's activity-based. We don't call them games, we call them activities, because every activity has a point. We don't do it just for fun. We're not playing a game. We learn from every activity that we do. A short form is lead, learn, experience, and discover. We look at multiple learning styles. Each one of us learns differently. I'm a very visual learner. One of the most frustrating things for me as I have gone through these seminary courses is a lot of the professors do not use things like PowerPoint. And I'm very much a visual learner. And that has frustrated me from time to time. And I would suspect that a lot of you are visual learners. There's all kinds of learning styles. Understand the competencies and skills needed to be an effective, that should be ethical leader. First time I saw that. That's interesting. So that our young leaders understand what it means to be an effective and ethical leader. They begin to understand what that is all about. And then we also talk with the parents about raising a leader. What does it mean to have a leader in your home, and what role can they play within the family? In selecting leaders, we have an application, and then we have what we call 2 social influence surveys that a parent completes and some other significant adult in their life. Could be a coach, could be a teacher, could be a relative, could be somebody that completes them. And we look for scores that are on the higher range, 3.5 and higher. And as you were to take the training, you would see what's that all about. Club format, they're 90 minutes in length. We use, as I already mentioned, accelerated learning methods. It's multi-sensory. We use a variety of different things, even in one night, to help them catch what it is we're talking about. They are in small groups. I didn't know how many we were going to have this morning, so we're going to be in little bigger groups than normally would, but we like to look at groups no bigger than 6. And so if you've got 24 kids out, you're looking at 4 small teams, that they interact together. We're going to be a little bigger than that tonight. There's a leadership challenge as they go through this on a weekly basis, that they've got to apply what they did that night. There's key concept cards and symbols that reinforce what it is that they have been working on. This is just a graphic of how it works. You have a trainer, you have some small groups, you have a coach in charge of each group, and then you have young leaders, and then parental guardian support and training. Now, we're going to come back to this, because I want to move right into doing. We want to go into our doing part of a learning lab. Now, I need 3 volunteers to be coaches this morning. 1, 2, and 3. Good. Okay, so we'll chat in just a minute. Now, as I said, our group's going to be a little bigger. So some of you may not actually do hands-on, but you can influence as a leader. So we want to divide up into 3 groups. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, 15 rows. So let's, what does that give us? That gives 5 rows. 5 rows. So they're going to be big groups, but I'm hoping we can still make this work. So if we can take these first 5 rows, and if you could go to that back corner there, and these first 5 rows, if you can go to that back corner there, don't get too far into the back, folks. Stay up close. And then the last few rows, if we can sort of gather up near the front. And if I can have the coaches. what we're going to do. Our activities in one of the manuals, one of the lessons, it's a blue module, and we talk about honesty and integrity. So a leader needs to be honest, and a leader needs to have integrity. We not only use a little concept card, we not only use a symbol for that, but we also have sign language for every one of them, and I want you to join me in this. I want you to make believe you're a 10 to 13-year-old, okay? And believe you me, our young leaders, we just finished a module, my wife and I just finished a module early February, and our young leaders knew every one of the sets of sign language because it becomes very significant to them. What we do is we say a good leader, all right? So a good is a sign language, leader, and then a person. Okay, so a good leader does what they say. Honesty and integrity. We talked about unethical leaders. We see it all around us today. So a good leader does what they say. Now we have 3 coaches here. And we're going to do an activity, and we're going to look at it. After we have done it, we're going to say, what's that got to do with honesty and integrity? So, what I'm going to do, here we are. You will take these, and this, and if you will go to one of the groups, so if you would go to the back corner, and if you can go to that corner there, and if you can stay up front, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say, these are big groups, not everybody going to participate. Unless I should have bought a lot more cups, I guess. But what we want to do is we want to see in 2 minutes how tall a tower we can build out of these cups. All right, you're going to have 2 minutes to do it. First of all, you're going to have 1 minute to strategize. Normally we would pick a leader out of the young leaders who will help coordinate things and be the leader for the group. And then you would have time to strategize on how to do this, and then you will have 2 minutes to build the tower. So, I guess if we could just sort of gather in our groups, in a circle or whatever, and 2 or 3 can step up. We're going to do this a couple of times. Your coach is right over there with the bags. Oh, you're in here. I'm sorry, you're here. Here's our coach here. Yeah, watch this here. All right, so you're going to get a minute to strategize. Now, here, the coach's responsibility is what? To be a developer, not a teacher. So I need somebody to step up within the group to be the leader. Somebody needs to step up now and to be a leader within these 3 groups. All right, we got one here. Somebody here? Someone to step up, be a leader? Okay, good. Somebody in the back there is going to be a leader? Oh, you got that person? You as a leader are going to strategize with your team to see how you're going to build this tower. How are you going to build it? Just going to stack the cups? Because we're going to measure it, and we're going to see what team's got the tallest. And we're going to do it a couple of times, and you only got 2 minutes to do it. So I'm going to give you a minute to strategize. So you've got your team leaders. Gather around. How are you going to do it? Don't take the cups out of the plastic bag yet. Keep the cups in the plastic bag. Thank you. Don't take them out until I tell you to. All right, you've got 1 minute to strategize. Go. 30 seconds.
Do we have to use just the cups, or?
Just the cups. That's all you've got. All you have is the cups. That's all you've got. All right, stop. Okay, okay. Are you ready? You've got 2 minutes to build the tower, Coach. You just stand by and watch them do it. Oh, by the way, keep your back to each of the other teams so you don't see what they're doing. Coach, that's what you've got to do. Make sure they're not peeking. All right, you got 2 minutes. Ready? Go! One minute. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. All right, stop. All right, let's see how well we've done here. Can you sort of break apart there, that team down there? Okay. I don't know, what do you think? That team there? Okay. All right, I want you to do something. Let's count the number of cups that you've got. Count the number of cups. You can take your tower down and count the number of cups. No? Coach, count the number of cups that are there. How many?
Bag said 45.
Really? If I wanted that answer, I wouldn't ask you to count them. That's all you have there? You have 36 cups? 50 there? You can take the tower down. Take the tower down as you count. I just said count the cups, You do need to take the tower down. How many have you got?
36.
36, really? Maybe you should count again. So how many cups total are there? How many cups total? Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't make that plain. 50 there? Okay. We're waiting for this group here. How many you got?
71.
71. Must have multiplied. Well, okay, we need to move on. 50 here, 50 there, but there were 60 here. So theoretically, what should have happened? They should have the tallest tower. Now, what do you do as a team when your leader doesn't do what's right, when the playing field isn't right in your team? This team had 60 cups. They had an advantage over you too. As a leader, we have to have integrity. If you would take 10 cups out of that, please. We have to have integrity as we lead our teams. Now, I want another group to do it, and we want to try it again. You're going to have 30 seconds to strategize if you're going to do it differently, and then you're going to have a minute and a half to build your tower. So another group from each one, smaller group, get in and get ready to do it. You got 30 seconds to do any strategizing. Same team leader. You need the cups. You need the cups. You need the cups. We're going to do it again. We're going to do that. Yeah, the 50. A new group. A new small group will build the tower. Okay? New small group builds the tower. You've got 30 seconds to strategize for this new group.
We're only strategizing right now, so I think the idea, I like that. You want to explain your idea? What is it? Getting that.
Maybe with about, like,
Or
three
just the
cups at a time, that'll probably eliminate the stack.
3 or 4, yeah. So, okay, who are our builders this time?
You got a new set of builders. All right, stop. You've got a new set of builders, team leader. You can work with that team set, that new set of builders, but you cannot work with the cups. You can help them verbally, but you cannot touch the cups. All right, are we ready? Let's see how well we do this time. All right? You will have 90 seconds. Go.
The other way.
45 seconds.
No limit.
15 seconds. All right, stop. How do we do this time? Not so good, huh? Yeah, okay, these two teams did pretty good. Okay. After we do each activity with the young leaders, they would go back. They would go with their coach into a small, what we call a team huddle, and the coach would have some questions. Our questioning is not yes and no answers. It's what we call Socratic questioning, because we want our young leaders to think about an answer, not just yes and no. So we might ask the question: what examples, after we have realized that one team had 60 cups and the other teams had 50 cups, and the kids with the 50 are saying, that's not fair, and you're right, but we might ask, a coach might ask the question, what examples can you think of when a leader has disappointed their people? And so we're challenging the kids to begin to think of, what happens if I don't do something right as a leader? What if I cheat and I get an unfair advantage? And so we ask Socratic questioning. You can do this in your Sunday school time, in your midweek time. Don't ask questions that are yes and no. Ask questions that the kids have to think about and come up with a sentence answer. Coaches, can you package up those cups? And here's what we want to do. We want to, this team, single file on the outside here, facing front. but single file. This team, single file down the middle, facing here, and this team, single file, facing here. And go back about, start about halfway in the room and go back. Yeah, face the front.
Move back, guys.
All right, I want you to move your lines back so that you're behind the second chair here. And you're facing in front. Coaches, would you bring the cups up, please? And just place them here. And I would like 3 more to volunteer as coaches. 3 more people to volunteer as coaches. One back there. Somebody from this row. I want to be a coach. Need a coach. Okay? Somebody here. Good. Okay, you want to come up the front as coaches? Actually, now I need a team leader from each row. Need a team leader. Someone will step up to be their team leader. All right, one here. Put it in the front person. Would you count the number of people in your row, please? If I could have the coaches here, please. Okay. You're each going to do something different in relationship to the team you're from. What the idea is, they are going to throw these marshmallows. Mm-hmm. Yep. 20, 18, 22. All right, 20, 40, 42, that's 60, 62? Oh, 60, that's 60. Okay. So if we take 60, what's that? That's 15 in a piece. Okay, good. That would work well. Let's have the first 15, and then the remaining from after the first 15, 16 and up, and 16 and up, and 16 and up will form a fourth row. So team leaders, you could count off to 15, and then 16 and up from each row will then... So you can hold 2 cups, and the idea is they are going to throw marshmallows to try and get them in the cups, okay? Now, what I want you to do is every third person, I want you to move the cup even if they're close. Don't let them get it in, all right? Every third person. What I would like you to do is to just stand still and hope they'll get it in. Mm-hmm. With your team, you can try and catch the marshmallow, okay? And then I need a coach from the 4th team that's just been formed. Okay? Now, you're not to tell them this is what you're doing, all right?
Give marshmallows better stuff.
They are going to be trying to put marshmallows in these 2 cups. Each coach is going to do something different. What I would like you to do is the same as the first team. The same as the 4th team is you will try and catch the marshmallows, okay, with either cup. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. Here's the instructions. You're to stay behind. We need the team leader. We have a team leader for each team. If you would get the bag of marshmallows from the coach, please. We need a team leader from this team here. Somebody step up to be a team leader. Okay, good. You would get the marshmallows. Now, here's the idea. You will take your team leader will stand there with the bag of marshmallows, and you'll take one marshmallow out and you will try and get it in the cup that your coach is handing. You must stay behind the chair. Cannot go in front of the chair. They have to stay behind this chair. And you want to try and get it in the cup that they have. All right? When you're done, just go to the back of the line and keep going till you're all out of marshmallows.
Can they move their cup?
They have their instructions. They have their instructions. All right? So, team leader, you will hold the marshmallow bag. As you throw your marshmallow, then go to the end of the line. All right? You will have, what's our time frame on this one here? All right, no time. All right. Oh, yeah. All right, are you ready? Go! Let's go. Keep going till you've run out of marshmallows. Okay, we can go to 12:15, all right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Good, thank you. You done? Okay. Keep them there then, all right? You're done? Okay. How are we doing here? Last one? Okay, team leaders, will you pick up the marshmallows, put them in the bag, please? I don't think they'd like it here on Sunday. Did they get any in?
You got two, actually.
Okay, put them there with the cups then. The number they got in, keep them handy or get a count.
Keep them in the cup.
Okay, yeah. How many did they get in?
3 at the...
Here.
We got two.
Okay, that's okay, as long as they got them there. Okay, let's take our seats now. And we'll get our coaches to report here.
My team got 18.
Okay, good. Where's our, okay, that's 18 there. All right, 18 here. And you got? 13. 13, all right. And you got? 2. And you got? Nil. Okay. Okay, now let's find out how we did here. This team on this side of the room, how many marshmallows are you successful getting in? 18. 18. How many did we get in here? 2. How many did your team get? 13. What about the other side? None. What was the difference? As the coach, what were your instructions?
I was to try to help them by trying to catch it by moving.
Okay. So the coach that was here, what was your instructions? Not move the cups. What about the third coach here? To catch them. What about the far coach?
To avoid every third one.
To avoid every third one. Okay, now, obviously, which coach was easier to have success with? First one or the third one? Because they were, what were they doing? They were helping, weren't they? They were assisting. They were part of the team that was going on. How was moving the cup away like a leader who lacks integrity? Couldn't trust them, okay. And what complicated things, though? Not only, you can't trust, but what was the factor that complicated that?
They didn't figure out what I was doing.
They didn't know. So a leader that lacks integrity, first of all, their team often doesn't know what they're doing. And when they do, they realize they can't trust their leader, which is what happened on the far side here. In the middle, they were doing that. What was the problem here? No help. The leader just stood there. You know, if we were successful, fine. If we weren't, fine. But I'm not going to help you. So as leaders, our integrity will have a significant role in the success or failure of our team. How does a leader's lack of integrity, how can a leader's lack of integrity affect a team's performance? Yeah, you can give up. The team can say, well, if I can't trust my leader, and the leader doesn't have any integrity, why should I bother? And so we give up. How else could it affect the team's performance?
We were talking in a line of just nailing her, like, forget that, and here's
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. They did, yeah. So, you know, this was hard because of our numbers and so on, but I'm hoping you understand what we are trying to achieve is using our activities in a program like KidLead, leadership training. We are dealing with the character traits of a leader and the competencies of a leader and learning the impact they can have on a team, because that's KidLead is all focused around teams. And if you think of your ministry in your church, you have a team. It may be just 2 people, but you have a team. You may have 5 people. And you all, first of all, there's going to be someone that has to take the responsibility as a leader, and that person needs to have integrity. And another word for integrity is being honest. Is being honest about it. And an honest leader has high standards. A leader with integrity has high standards. Much higher standards than what the team would have as a team. They make good ethical choices when they're faced with decision making, and they play by the rules. All right? The first time we did the cup stack, we had one team had 60 cups instead of 50 each. And in a sense, they weren't playing by the rules because they had more. They should have built a bigger tower. And they didn't, but anyway. But a leader needs to have high standards. A leader with integrity, an honest leader, needs to be willing to be open to inspection by their team members. We've got to be, as leaders of integrity, we've got to be willing to be questioned by our team. As a leader with integrity, we can't be a loner. We can't say, well, okay, you're over here as a team, but I'm going to build the tower. I'm going to do this myself. You just watch. Often it's the other way around, where the leader has to step back. And that's what we do in KidLead. The team leader steps back and often is not able to actually participate in the building of the tower, but rather can stand and encourage and help the team members to do it. So we're not a loner. We are, though, an example for others. We are willing to keep the standards that we expect from other people. If you're working on a team, you need to be able to keep the standards and be willing to keep the standards if you expect them from somebody else. A leader says and does what they say they're going to do. They're going to do it. Our walk matches our talk. And then a leader of integrity is truthful. They don't try to deceive others or hide the facts from the rest of the team. Things aren't going well, we're truthful. If things are going well, we're truthful. These are two activities, and this is a mini lesson right from our blue module. And so this is what you would work through with the young leaders doing the blue module. There's about 3 activities usually for each module. There's at least one mini lesson, a couple of other things that come in, leadership challenge, what we call a brain wake, just to get things going when we first meet together. But we learn by activity. It's activity-based, accelerated learning, and we learn the character and the competencies of leadership through actually doing it and then stopping and thinking, what did we do? Why did we do it? Why didn't we do it well? Could we do better the next time? What do we have to change to do better the next time? So I've gone through it very quickly. I realize that. But I sort of wanted to just give you a taste this morning of what Kid Lead is all about. I am convinced that if we can develop a generation of leaders that are 10 to 13 years of age that know the character and the competencies of what leadership is all about, we can make significant impact, not just within our church, but within the schools our kids attend, the neighborhoods in which the kids are in, because they are going to be this kind of a leader. They are going to make, one of the things I said, what keeps you up at night? And one of the answers was kids making wrong choices. If we can begin to train our young leaders to make right choices, we could have a significant impact on their peers and on what is going on around them. Any questions?
For the kids that would come together in this club, would you first decide that, okay, they have leadership abilities and then take them, or do you take just any lady?
Well, you would be able to identify probably right now a group within your ministry that you say, you know, that child has leadership gifting. You can watch them, you can see what they do. When something needs to be done, they're willing to step up and do it. And so the influence survey then confirms that for you. So you begin to, and that's what we have done with our clubs. We have watched, we use the Awana program in our church, and we have watched our young ones as they've grown up, and we've identified those that are already stepping up to take leadership. And so there's the ones we've invited, and we've gone to their parents, and we've said, we think your child is gifted as a leader. Would you consider this? And that's how we have done it, and that's really the best way to do it.
With this, how do you bring this into your church?
Yep.
We buy...
Yeah. How do we bring it into the church? There needs to be a leadership training, a trainer training take place, and to do it, what's the word I want? Financially feasible. We really need a minimum of 4 people taking the training, so you would investigate this and say, yes, I think this is valuable for us, and we want to take the training, and we have 1 or 2 people that would do it. Typically, it's 1 person who becomes the certified trainer, and when you're a certified trainer, you can conduct the club within your own environment, within your own church or school or whatever it is. And then either myself or we have 2 other lead trainers in Ontario would come out and to do it. The training, the cost for the training is one time of $450 for the training, and you would go away with a manual. Oh, here it is. Here. Go away with the red manual, which has the 8 lessons in it, and then the other lessons. If you're going to do when you do the other modules, they're $50 for the next set of lessons. And so we could come out and do that. We wouldn't want any more than 8 in one certified training group. Minimum of 4, maximum of 8. Once you get above that, we really need to be 2 trainers in to do that. And then I thought the question you might have asked, well, how does this work within the church environment, say? Well, the idea is you take those that you recognize as being gifted, and you trained them, put them through the, and then you feed them back in to your weeknight program, your Sunday school, your ministry, whatever it is, and they begin to take leadership role among their peers. So now what you're doing is you're growing your own leadership within your church. You're developing that. You've got that need for volunteers. When I asked who doesn't need any volunteers in the church, nobody put their hand up. So that means all of us need additional volunteers. And so you take these young leaders that you have trained, and now you feed them back into the program, and they become your next generation of leaders. Another question? Yes? Okay, smaller church. It works well. We have a small church. On a good Sunday, we will have 50 people. So we are a small church. The last module that we had 10 young leaders. And we had to do some digging to get them because you've got a population of this size, but only the 10 to 20%, so you narrow that down, not everybody can do it. And we had hoped to have a dozen, but 2 of them couldn't do it. So we've had to dig. You would have to, in our case, we have an Awana program that's about 80 kids, and so that's where we have drawn from, is to get those 10. Now, you may not have that base to draw from, but you might be able to know kids in a community, perhaps, that might attend another church, and you could go to that church and say, here's what we're going to do. Would you like to partner with us to develop leaders in your church? It's time we started to work together to accomplish and meet some of the needs that we have. But part of our training would help answer that question and help solve that problem. How do we actually go about it? When you've got a church this size, you're going to have a lot of kids. In fact, you probably will have to say, no, you have to wait for the next module. We have a church in Burlington that's Faith Tabernacle, and they had to cap it at 24 kids because of the size of their children's ministry. And so, but at smaller churches, which there are a lot of, 80% of the churches in Canada today are a size where they just have one pastor. They don't have multiple staff, just a pastor. And 80% of our churches, and another smaller percentage will just be 100 or below, people below on the Sunday. This churches and like it are an exception, really, in Canada because of our population. But it can be done with a small group. And part of our certified training would be help you to answer that question and work through just how are you going to do that and what will that look like. Anything else? Yep. No, it's 8 weeks. 8 weeks. We do 2 modules a year. We did one in October, and then we did one in February. We started the end of January. And then we'll do another one in September and another one in... and so we've already had 2 graduates have gone through all 4 modules. And you can cram it in, all 4 modules, but there is a cost for the kids to do it. I believe right now there are some adjustments for the cost, but for you as a leader, as a trainer, to hold it and buy materials for your kids, I believe it's around, I think it's $40, and then you would charge perhaps more than that to buy the supplies and so on. We have typically charged $120 to our parents, to our families, and once they understand what it is, we've never had a problem. They are willing to pay that because they are investing it in their children. When you think of what it costs to play hockey today or take music lessons, whatever. And so we were pleasantly surprised at that. We kicked around what we were going to charge for a long while, and we settled 120. And we had one family that are actually missionaries with Gospel for Asia. They had 3 kids in the last 2 modules, but they see the value of it. We only got a couple more minutes, and we got lunch.
So, if you can't get 4 people that want to do it, do you guys have like a database of like we got a bunch of people in this area that want to do it?
We're working on that. Now, we happen to have I don't know the church she's at. She was at Prince George? Yeah, Prince George up north, isn't it? Yeah. And she's a children's pastor, and she's just moved down to the, I want to say Abbotsford area, but I'm not sure. But she is also the children's coordinator for the Christian Missionary Alliance churches in Canada. And she's one of our trainers. And so I'll be working with her to see if she can't help put this together. So You can get my contact information from where the table is and so on, and we're also online at bcmintl.ca, and then we can keep you up to date on how we can put this together. I would suspect it would be the fall before we'd be able to do one.
Is this something that you could use as an outreach to non-Christian kids in your community?
Yes, it comes in a character-based, so that what has happened is we've taken any scripture references out, so it's character-based. And some people will say, why would you want to do that? Well, quite frankly, leadership principles are all biblical principles. So whether they work on the verses or not, because there's a verse attached to every lesson, they're still learning biblical principles. In fact, the founder of this, Alan, in California, was asked by a Muslim mosque to come and do leadership training, and someone said to him, why would you do that? And he said, because they're going to learn biblical principles. They may not realize it, but they're going to do it. So it was very successful. So yes, there's a character-based. I wish we had more time. I could take all day. You can't, but I can.
Have you ever done it in a school setting?
I personally haven't, but one of our lead trainers in Brantford, Ontario, has done one module in a school, elementary school, and she has another one coming up. She may be in the middle of it now, actually. She went to the principal, talked to the principal. We have talked to the principal at our school that's near our church. The problem is, with all the messing around in Ontario right now, the teachers weren't doing extracurricular stuff, and of course you want to involve some of them as coaches and so on. So it's been very hard, but it is possible to do it. I hope I haven't gone too quick for you. I wanted to cover a lot of ground, give you a chance to just do a taste. I'd be glad to talk to you, and if you want to call me, as I said, our website is bcmintl.ca in Hamilton. Feel free to give me a call. I'd be glad to talk to you. So thank you, and have a good rest of the conference.
So right now, if you purchase tickets for lunch, conference lunch, you can find that over in the gym.